Welcome to the Sherpa Chalet on Mount Podcastia, where it's time for podcast picks with Jim the Podcast Sherpa. You'll get to hear about podcast recommendations for your podcast playlist, along with occasional interviews with other podcasters and video hosts. Now waiting for you is your host, Jim the Podcast Sherpa. He's just like you imagined. But don't worry, we'll make it up to you somehow.
Season 15 of Podcast Picks with Jim the Podcast Sherpa kicks off with a visit from comedian Keb Pound, the host of the Stupid History Minute podcast. Coincidentally, Stupid History Minute is also a phrase that's been used to describe the Sherpa's dating life.
Welcome to the Sherpa's Podcast Picks. It's the podcast about, podcasts. And now, coming to you from Mount Podcastia, here's your host, who wonders what's on your podcast playlist, Jim the Podcast Sherpa.
Hello there, Rebels of the Sherpa-lution, and welcome to Podcast Picks with me, Jim the Podcast Sherpa. I am coming to you from Sherpa-lu Studios here in the Sherpa Chalet, high atop Mount Podcastia, where I overlook the millions and millions of podcasts that are out there. We are in Season 15, and this is the premiere episode. So if this is the first time listening to this show, well, welcome aboard, and you've got 14 seasons to catch up on. Now, go, run, don't stop. No. Just stick around for this one, and I'm sure you'll want to listen to more. I hope. Anyway, we kick this off talking to a podcaster, and I'm really happy about that. I know last season I had a rough time finding a lot of podcasters, but this is a gentleman. He is from Jacksonville, Florida. His name is Keb Pound. He's a comedian and an author and a podcaster. He hosts a podcast called The Stupid History Minute, and we got to hang out for a little while, and we got to know him. And he had some really interesting stories, and he's a really nice guy. And he even talks about some of the really nice things that he's done in his time as a podcaster. It's really cool. I'm really glad that I got to get to know him. So, and I'm sure you're going to be glad that you're going to hear his story, because we're going to head over to the Stupid History Room in the Sherpa Chalet. Where does he get all this money for all these rooms? I don't know. What's in the Stupid History Room? There's pictures of a certain president. Millard Fillmore or what? What did you think I meant? Time to head on over and get to know Mr. Keb Pound from the Stupid History Minute. Hello there, Rebels. We are kicking off Season 15 of Podcast Picks with Jim the Podcast Sherpa. With my guest today, he is from Jacksonville, Florida. He is a comedian. He is the author of the Stupid History book, which is based on his podcast, The Stupid History Minute. So coincidentally, we are here in the Stupid History Room in the Sherpa Chalet. So what better guest to have than my guest today, Mr. Keb Pound. Keb, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Am I on mute?
No.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry. Thank you for having me. I appreciate you having me on, man.
So we were just talking about how much you hate the Dodgers and how much you hate the Phillies.
Yeah.
but Atlanta is your team. Go Braves.
They are. Yeah. Atlanta's my team. Growing up, I'm Gen X, so I grew up in the very birth of the cable television. And in Jacksonville, you had TBS or you had WGN. So you're either a Braves fan or you're a Cubs fan. And so I picked the Braves when I was growing up. And ever since I could remember on TV, that's what we have done every night during the summers. We watched the Atlanta Braves, and I was so fortunate to have, an opportunity. I lived in Atlanta for 4 years. I still go up about 3 times a year to go to Braves games and things of that nature. And it's a good deal. I love the Braves.
Now, I noticed on your podcast, The Stupid History Minute, you do a month and you do different topics. I know for the month of October, you're doing serial killers, and I know you've done cartoon characters and everyday inventions, which is what the book is based about as well. Are you ever going to do a month about baseball?
Well, I have.
Oh, you have? Okay.
Yeah. Well, I did baseball. I did the history of the baseball stadiums.
Okay.
And I haven't done the teams yet because every August, I'll get there, but every August, since this thing started in 21, every August I've held that. I'm a huge sports guy. I was a sports talk radio personality for 6 years.
Okay.
So I'm a huge sports guy. I'm a big Jaguars guy. I don't know if anybody saw on Monday night where the Jaguars handled the Kansas City Chiefs. But so every August, what we do, we call them series, and we do a series on sports. So the very first one was baseball stadiums, and then we did like stupid things that happen in sports, like Evander Holyfield getting his ear bit by Mike Tyson, things like that. And then we did stupid sports themselves, like chess boxing. And then this year we did mascots. And so every August, it kind of a theme of August to get back into, because August is a very strange month. It's back to school. It's very weird. So rather than make it weird, we'd just do, sports. I don't know if you know this too. August is the worst month for podcast listeners. You get the least amount of listens in August.
I did not know that.
Yeah. I'm a student of the game, man. So we do that.
So that's pretty good advice for anybody who's thinking of, if they hear this and they want to start a podcast, don't do it in August because you'll get disheartened really quick. Is that probably what?
But I think at this level, if you get disheartened, it's not so much about everybody wants everybody to listen and things like that. But I think it's more important that you focus on your content. And focus on this. I'm a big sales and marketing guy. So what I started out to do, I didn't even know I was doing it. But what I continued to try to do, not so much with the Stupid History Minute, the podcast, but the Stupid History brand. Okay. And the way that I have done that is, with the Stupid History Minute podcast, base everything off of that because that's what started it. And really, people know what to expect. Right. I got reviewed by a guy in LA and he was just like, the host knows exactly what this thing is. Well, yeah, I've done it 1,200 times.
You get it down after a while, right?
Yeah. So we've got a process, and that process has changed over the 4 years, but still it remains the same. The people know what to expect when they hit the Stupid History Minute button in the CarPlay or on their phone or whatever. They know that, it's going to be me. It's going to be about a minute, maybe 90 seconds long. And they are going to learn something and maybe have a chuckle while they're doing it.
Can't ask for more than that, right? Nice and easy.
Yeah. Very quick. You can listen to it out of the back of back in your car, out of your driveway. There's no real reason not to listen to it, or you could binge like 30, if you got a 30-minute drive, just hit play next,
There you go. An easy subscription, you can kind of get through them quickly. So talk a little bit about your comedy career.
Okay, well, I don't want to call it a career. It's just, about 20 years ago, I started writing for a comedian. And I quite frankly, I got tired of hearing him tell my jokes wrong. And so...
Is there anyone we'd know or you'd rather not say?
He's on the club circuit. So, okay. He doesn't have a Netflix special or anything like that. Okay. But he, around here, these parts, people know who he is. Okay. But nationally, no one's gonna know who he is. Okay. But I'll tell you this: a lot of the funniest people are club comedians. A lot of the funniest ones. You get your Gabriel Iglesias's and your Kevin Hart's and your Dave Chappelle's and all these huge guys. That I'm not saying they're not funny. I'm just saying that there's a lot of funny people out there. Yeah. And the club comedians are a tad bit more raw. Then they're not safe. They exercise their freedom of speech. So I love club comedians. Anyhow, so I was writing for one, and quite frankly, I got tired of him telling my jokes wrong. He got tired of me telling him that he was telling my jokes wrong. Okay. And I was doing this for free. And he was just like, well, why don't you get up there and tell him? I said, all right, I will. And I went up there. I didn't really do great the first time. I did get some laugh breaks, and this guy came up to me and he was just like, hey man, just don't stop doing this, Right. And so then, because of my corporate career, I was kind of pushed towards the way of doing corporate events. Okay. And not so much. I still do clubs. I don't do open mics anymore because you're just telling jokes to a bunch of comedians. I will every now and again if I need to work something out. But a lot of times I'll go on like a comedy podcast or something like that and work out some material and see if they think it's funny. But I do a lot of corporate events where I just go and make fun of the people there. I just did one for a company called Business Networking International, and I just basically made fun of them for half an hour.
And you got a check for it.
Yeah. And that particular one, I'm real, I mean, I have to make a living, but it depends on certain, like that particular one, I donated my fee to a charitable cause that they were doing, that particular one. But club events or stuff like that, I won't do that. But, at this point where I'm just kind of compartmentalizing my life to where you do stand up, you do podcasts, I write books. I got a second book coming out on November 1st. And then, my daily life, once my kids are fully in college, you're going to see me do a lot more stand up. A ton more.
I think to your point earlier about why club comics are so good, they've really got to think on their toes like the whole time that they're out there for that 7 minutes, and that probably keeps their brain sharp.
Sure, and they have prepared material, and but what you don't prepare for is heckler if you rub somebody the wrong way,
right?
And I grew up. I don't know how much research you did into me, but I grew up going to religious school, and that's a lot of things that I talk about. Some people don't like that,
right?
And I really don't care, and so it's my act. I know you probably didn't come. I'm usually a featured act. You didn't come. My name's not on the marquee. You didn't come. You didn't pay to see me. However, whoever you did pay to see accepted me to open for him. So it's with club comics. It's the last bastion of free speech. I think we have. And there are just certain of them that don't care, and that's kind of what I like to see. You got something on your mind, say it. Who cares if somebody, doesn't agree with it? It's that's what stand up is to me. It's not so much like telling a Trump joke or telling a Biden joke. I mean, anybody can do that. But if you want to come, like if you're going to come and see me, you're going to learn about my life. And the only person I could tell that story is me. I mean, you're going to learn. I mean, there's some funny things that happened to me in 50 years, and 13 of those years were religious school, and so just the ridiculousness, a stupid history book. It is 200 long page joke. And I don't care if one person in this world, me, thinks it's funny. I think it's hilarious.
Right.
And if people get the joke, and if they listen to the podcast, they get the joke. So, and the one that I come out is going to start some stuff. The one's coming out on 11/1. It's going to start some stuff. But yeah, I think club comics, to answer your question, I think club comics are the last bastion of free speech we got.
So what transitioned your comedy act into doing the podcast? Were you a big history guy? Was that where you wanted to focus on?
So I was on a podcast. I don't know if you could see over here, but there's a picture of three guys and
Unfiltered.
Podcast called Unfiltered. And it was what happens when a comedian, a Catholic, and a Baptist minister get together and have no holds barred. And it was fun. And we did it. And we started it during the pandemic when nobody can get like on a stage or whatever.
Right.
And everybody's bored to tears. And the episodes are still up. It's now a sports show, which I'm on frequently. But it was a full just comedy variety, show at the time. And I wanted to do something. My kids were getting older. And so I kind of wanted to do something that they could hear, because letting them go to my stand-up act was out of the question. So I was sitting around and I listened to a lot of history podcasts, like Hardcore History, things like that.
Sure.
And I was just taken back by A, how long they were. B, how many times are we going to go through the JFK assassination? JFK Part 42,
Right.
the ride home, I mean, how many times can we do that? How many times are we going to go through, what do you think was going through Abraham Lincoln's head? A bullet? I mean, I don't know. How many times can we do that? So, excuse me. So I told my wife, I was just like, look, I think I'm going to do a history podcast. And she's like, okay. And I say, it's going to be clean. And I said, and I think I'm going to make it like a minute long. And right out of her mouth, she goes, that's stupid. And I said, that's what we'll call it, and she's like, well, what are you going to talk about in a minute? And I said, I don't know. And I looked over the kitchen table, and there was a Ninja blender box sitting right on the table, and a bag of balloons because it was close to my son's birthday. And I said, you know what? The first episode is going to be called History of the Blender. And right after that, it's going to be balloons. And then I said, we're just going to do it about everyday items that nobody knows the damn history of. You know, a lampshade, a pillow, you know, a headrest, you know, drapes, you know, things like that. She's like, well, sooner or later, you're going to run out of them. And I said, well, then we'll do everyday topics, you know, and we'll go back and forth, just things that people see or use every day. And that's where we went. I did 30. And after 30, I think everything of it was just fun. And I put it out there. I remember on Twitter, after the 30 went and a couple of days went by, no new Stupid History Minute. They're like, hey, Matt, where's my Stupid History Minute for today? And I'm like, all right, well, maybe I need to do this. Okay, so I did 50 more. After that, like 15 or 20 people were like, hey, are you going to do more of these? And so I was like, oh, okay, maybe this is the thing, you know? And then I started getting into, you know, what are we going to do? You know, searching for these things and getting the process together to put these things out every month, you know, because I'm not going to record one every day.
Right.
You know, I'm going to record it all at once and then schedule it out, you know, every day. And, but I mean, you know, it's cool. We've done some cool things. I've met some cool people because of the podcast. I don't think I would have met otherwise. It made some, you know, great relationships. If you Google me, it's like third page, you'll get stand-up stuff. First page, you'll get Stupid History Minute. Mm-hmm. You know, so it's been kind of cool. You know, it's a cool medium that I never thought that I would be in this deep.
Yeah. No, I follow you. I've been doing this since 2019. Yeah. And I agree 100% with what you're saying, that you come across people that you really wouldn't expect to meet. And there you are, you're hanging out with them the next thing, whether it's online or in person. And, you know, you're talking about things that you didn't think you'd be talking about as well.
Yeah, I am friendly with so many other podcasters that like will ask me, hey, are you going to this? Or, hey, are you going to be here? You know, one today, a very large, I don't want to embarrass her, but a very large podcast that gets, you know, 5,000 to 10,000 downloads a week, messaged me on Instagram. It's like, hey, there's this podcast thing in Houston. Can you make it? And I'm like, well, and when is it? She's like, it's Friday. And I'm like, well, yeah, that's kind of a late notice, but I'm going to be in Orlando this weekend, you know? So, yeah, just things like that you just get invited to and all this. I mean, I'm going to spend $1,000 to fly to Houston for 2 days. Come on. But I think it's some of my greatest people who I talk to on an everyday basis now are because of podcasting.
Absolutely.
You know,
we are a rare breed, I think, Keb.
I think so too. I think creative people are going to find a way to get that creativity out.
Yes.
And it's really our sense of therapy in a way, you know, but there's some things creatively that I have been able to do because of the podcast. You know, I mean, stand-up's one, but the books are directly because I podcast. That's how. And if you notice, Stupid History Minute does not have ads on it. You know, so people are like, how do you make money, you know, with the Stupid History brand? Well, I mean, buy a book, dude. You know, 50% of all proceeds go to a charity, but 50%, you know, go to fund this venture, you know, and you know, I will continue to give back, you know, to things like that. I will continue to help any podcaster out there that have been, because there were a ton of them when I started this and I didn't have any clue what I was doing. You know, I knew how to press record. I didn't know how to edit. I didn't know how to add, like, you know, I didn't know copyright laws or anything like that. I had a handful of people, and then the network that I joined, those guys helped me out a lot. So now that I kind of think I know what I'm doing, I you know, would like to help whoever, you know, and sometimes that's just me appearing on a podcast.
Yeah. You know, I've always felt that, like, I know just enough about this to get me into trouble. So
sure,
it's a good level to be at this point.
Sure.
I think it's really admirable that you give back a lot. You know, that, you know, you're given this opportunity to speak your mind, and not only that, you're helping people out while doing so.
I also think, and you know, if you run in the circles of podcasters and on social media there, depending on which social media you're on, there are a ton of groups that you could join and all this. And just since I've been podcasting, when we started Unfiltered, it was 2018, 2019, somewhere in there. So me and you have been podcasting about the same length.
Sure.
But now, I mean, nobody remembers that thing. It's funny too. But with Stupid History Minute, I run in these circles to where, you'll get every now and again, you'll get the group of people who think that they're going to promote everybody and all this, and they just, go to the wayside, and all these, retweet groups and things of that nature. And I don't really participate so much in the I mean, I'll pop in and out, but and I'll put new episodes out there. We have a scheduler, so it's not me necessarily putting it out there every day. It's the scheduler putting. But I try, if anybody has a question or wants me to come on or anything like that, I try to be as cordial as I can, unless they're outwardly rude,
Right.
And I don't know why you would be, but some are, and why you would, have you, seen my bio? I make fun of people and I get paid for it. I mean, it's just, I don't know why you would do that. I put out, real quick, the in July we did conspiracy theories,
Okay.
and I have a history with the flat Earth community, and I put out one on flat Earth, and nothing came back. Nobody said one thing, but the one that I put out like 2 weeks before that was about the government controlling the weather. Man, you would have thought I started World War III, and I was just like, have you, tell me you haven't listened to the episode without telling me you haven't listened to the episode, because the episode is just the history of the damn conspiracy theory. It's not me promoting one way or the other.
Right.
Which way to think. And this guy's like trying to convince me. He's like, what more proof do you need? And I'm like, you realize, like, in the title of my podcast is the word stupid. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was just amazing to me that people would just argue about anything, just looking for something to argue about, and I did one about Hitler moving to Argentina, and not a damn person said anything about that. But I just think it's funny that some people are just rude and want you to think that you're going to converse with them, and somebody's rude to me or to anybody that I follow tightly. I just move on. I don't even block them, because sometimes they're funny to read. I just won't converse with them.
It's just like, oh, look, their ignorance is showing once again, right?
Yeah. But how hard is it? Like, if somebody today went on Twitter and said, hey, go listen to the Stupid History Minute. They're doing serial killers right now because it's October and spooky season and all this good stuff. And I just hit them back with like a little gift that said, thank you. Sometimes that goes a long way.
Yeah, that's very true. A while back, I had an interview with an astronomer who hosts a podcast called Ask a Spaceman. And I asked him about, how do you deal with the folks who talk about like flat Earth and about the moon landing being staged and stuff like that? And he said, essentially, I don't. He said a lot of these people who really just have a problem with authority, that, they're being told some facts and they refuse to believe it. He said, if that's what they want to do, he said, I'm not going to waste my time and try and change their mind. He said, I know what the facts are. I'm a scientist.
Well, on November 1st, there's a book coming out written by yours truly called The Earth is Not Flat. End of story. And
I love it.
And it is about history. It is a comedic take on history of why the Earth isn't flat. And it will, cure it. The flat Earth theory is the dumbest debate of our time. It really is. And so I'm going to put an end to it. And it was a blast to write. It's a lot shorter than Stupid History Books. Stupid History Books 250 pages long. I wasn't doing all that again. And but it's a lot shorter. It's a quick read, and it's fun though. And it's a lot of fun. Yeah.
This should be really interesting. I'm curious, given your comedic background and everything, who are some of your comedic influences?
Probably the biggest is Robin Williams. George Carlin, but then again, Big Eddie Murphy, Big Richard Pryor. Dare I say, I'm talking about the comedian, people. Bill Cosby.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Talking about the comedian part of him, because Bill Cosby himself is widely considered the best stand-up act ever. his best special, at least. Eddie Murphy Raw, right up there. I mean, the contemporaries. I watch Chappelle, I watch Nate Bargatze. I'm really into a new guy right now called Derek Stroop, and he's from Alabama, and he's just he's my age, a little younger than me, but kind of the same deal. Talks about I talk about my life a lot. And he talks about his life a lot, like riding a bus. He went to a K through 12 school, so did I. And so on the bus is like you learn things that you shouldn't know as a third grader, and and how the bus was the internet before the internet, and the further back on the bus, the last row of the bus was the dark web. It just things like that just strike me funny. I listen to him a lot now, but Bill Burr. Probably, if I had to say like who my favorite contemporary is, probably Bill Burr.
You said that you listen to a lot of podcasts. What are some that are on your podcast playlist?
So naturally, I listen to some history, horrifying history. One of them, that's an indie history. I'm almost exclusively indie podcast listener.
Okay.
I listen to now. This is going to be a genre of ones. I listened to a travel podcast called Show Me Your Trips, and I started listening to it because of the name, but I have I contact these people and I've become friends over the years with his name is Scott, and become friends with him. I listened to a motherly advice podcast called Pedals of Support. Not a podcast you would think that I would listen to, but it soothes me.
Okay.
Because I'll be driving around. I get worked up at these drivers, man. I get worked up. I'll start rolling down the window. I want to tell people, learn how to drive, and so I need something to calm me down. Another history podcast that I love is called That Florida Feeling, probably because it's about Florida, and she actually, I didn't know her before that, but reached out and said, "Hey, what's up? I'm Keb." And she's like, "Hey, we live like 3 miles away from each other."
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's funny when you're, she's like, "Where are you in Jacksonville?" So I'm a Mandarin. She's like, "I'm just across the bridge from you." So, think cool like that. And that keeps me going. I'm a big movie guy. So, I listen to a couple of Star Wars podcasts. I listen to a Big Bang Theory podcast because I love that show. Naturally, I listen to, when you get into the sports podcast, that's where I get national, like Pat McAfee, New Heights, that's where I get, but I'm not sitting out here listening to the Joe Rogan Experience. That's not happening, Better Call Daddy too. I listen to that on a weekly basis. But yeah. Better Call Daddy is by Rena Friedman Watts. She used to work for the Jerry Springer Show.
Okay.
And she has she interviews somebody and then her dad puts commentary on the back end. It's a very unique, very interesting podcast.
It sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, you have two generations, listening, but she's an excellent interviewer. She speaks to groups about how to be a podcast interviewer. She's excellent. I've been on her show, so I can tell you she's one hell of an interviewer.
Very cool.
As you are.
Thank you. All right. So we have a portion of the show. It is called Shameless Self-Promotion. And this is where you can let everybody know where they can follow you and hear your latest stuff.
Cool. You could hear the Stupid History Minute is approaching, I think it's 1,180 something episodes, 1,200 episodes, wherever you get podcasts. If you got Podcast Player, you can look it up. It's on there. I spent a lot of time doing that. You can check out stupidhistory.net. I got some cool things going on there right now. We got The Earth Is Not Flat and the story is on pre-order. And you could pick up the Stupid History book. Author signed copies on there. If you just want a copy, just go to Amazon. But if you want an author signed copy, I've got them, if you can see right up there, and pull out a copy, sign it for you, drop it in the mail to you, and probably get a couple stickers and some goodies in the package too. But that's it. I mean, if you have a corporate event or anything like that, you can book me at stupidhistory.net or anything like that. I'll cut you a deal if you tell me you heard me on this podcast. And that's about it.
And where are you on Instagram and Twitter?
Sorry. At Twitter, it's Stupid Minute. On Instagram, it's Stupid History Minute. Basically everywhere else except for Twitter, it's Stupid History Minute. Facebook, Threads, Blue Sky, and it's at Stupid Minute on TikTok, which we're trying to build. I'm 50. I don't really get the TikTok thing, But I've got
to the choir, my friend.
I got a 20-year-old and an 18-year-old, and they're like, you got to be on TikTok. And they're like, you're a marketing guy and you don't know about TikTok? I'm like, okay, well, let's find out, So, I think we got like 3,000 followers on TikTok or something like that. So, it's getting there.
Okay. His name is Keb Pound. Again, the podcast is called The Stupid History Minute, and check out his books as well. We will put the links in our show notes if you want to check them out. Keb, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Hey, thanks so much for having me.
It looks like the Sherpa is no longer locked in the bathroom at the Sherpa Chalet, so we can finally get back to the show.
Thank you so much to Keb Pound for spending a little time here in the Sherpa Chalet. And if you'd like to buy his book, we will have the link in our show notes. I'm really pushing these show notes. I'm going to get people to read show notes again, world. I don't know, something like that. We need a little catchier slogan. But anyway, you can do that and buy his book if you want to support him. And if you'd like to support this podcast, it's not even going to cost you a dime. All you have to do is listen on open.video. It's just like YouTube, but there's no video there either. So who knows the difference? I don't know. But if you don't want to do that, you can still catch us on the Sherpa-lution YouTube channel or on your favorite podcast apps. And if you have a favorite podcast app that you cannot find my show on, please let me know, and I will get those people to put this show, I'm just banging on the desk. I will get those people to put that show on your podcast app so you can have a listen. I'm that kind of guy. I'm that nice. Anyway, but we've got a really interesting season 15 coming up. I've got some really fascinating interviews scheduled. And next week, we will be talking to author Mark Gray. Mark was previously a writer for People and Rolling Stone, and he just came out with a book. And it has to do with the victims and the families of the victims of the worst mass shooting in American history and how they came together to heal. And it's really great. It's really inspirational. You're going to like Mark. You're going to like the story that he has to tell. It's really cool. Definitely gives you hope in humanity, which we all need, especially when you're listening to a podcaster like me. We need hope in humanity, please. Hopefully then I don't like the Sherpa. That will do it for me. And until next time, I say to you, Viva la Sherpa-lution.
Thanks for listening to the Sherpa's Podcast Picks. The podcast is now over. Please disperse and tell everyone about us. As long as they don't put us back in jail. Viva la Sherpa-lution!